Today, I'm going to try to finish drawing this church in the rocks in Nafplio, Greece, and as you can see, this is part 2 of a 2-part drawing. So if you missed the first one, go check that out, and then come back to this one. I'll wait. Great. So ironically, yesterday's part of the drawing had me droning on and on about the specific importance of perspective. As you know, perspective has become a major talking point on this channel, and I think for good reason. Not only does it count for a lot with respect to architecture, but it's still relevant when considering pretty much anything else. It's a core ability in drawing, whether you're drawing windows or portraits, it doesn't really matter. So I really, really love to intuitively understand it. So you'll understand my dismay when you take a long, hard look at the windows I draw on the left-hand side. Maybe all that stuff I said yesterday will give you a clue as to what's technically wrong. But I think you can probably just feel that they're wrong. You don't always need to understand the mechanics of the thing to see that it's malfunctioning, which is precisely why it's so important for me to get this stuff right. It's not that I'm being too picky or too much of a perfectionist. It's that blatantly incorrect perspective is unsettling, and obviously so. Anyway, if you're interested, those windows, or at least the windowsills, are below my eye line. And if you were paying attention yesterday, you'll know that anything that sits below my eye line on this plane, the one that faces to the right side of frame, should be pointing up and to the right. That being said, even looking at the video, it's hard to tell whether they're slanting at all or are just horizontal, and that's just because they're so close to my eye line. However, because I like to go to ridiculous lengths for this type of thing, I popped this into Photoshop and drew some lines just to make sure. You can also do it with a sheet of paper if you like, and you'll see that they slant up to the right. Now let's say that I made these perfectly horizontal in the drawing. Would that have been a big deal? I think no, not really. Unfortunately, I did the opposite, and I did so even more dramatically than the true angle. So not only was I wrong, I was mega wrong. And that makes this feel a little uncanny. Keep this in mind for when you see the final drawing, because it will definitely give you a different idea of these shapes and angles. It's not the end of the world, and even though it's objectively wrong, I don't think it ruins the drawing. Thankfully, I spend a substantial amount of time with the details in this drawing, and I think they do a lot of the heavy lifting and some damage control as well. And when I say details, I don't necessarily mean like the tiniest little thing here and there, but the more general stuff that I guess doesn't have to be here to help it make sense. Instead, it's the stuff like the table, the floor pattern, and maybe just like the overall texture that gives this life. In particular, the floor pattern I'm especially pleased with. I'm still not sure why it went so well, maybe because of this like higher up vantage point, but whatever the case, I think it looks great and adds an extra level of context that I usually can't create. This makes the scene feel much more regal in a sense, like it's an important little area, and I'm so glad that I went for it. Stuff like this always trips me up though, so I'm usually hesitant to even try. I so badly want to avoid screwing things up that I'd rather omit it entirely, especially when I get to a certain point in the drawing when things are going well. But seeing how much it changes things, I'd really like to include it more often. It really helped that the shape followed the contours of the little square, and the placement of the table helped me figure out where this diamond shape should start. Other than that though, I really just went for it. And yeah, super happy it worked out, and I'd really love to do it more often. The last big thing I worked on, before all the minor shading and finishing touches, was the rocky hill in the background. This, I was scared of this. I knew I wanted it to be a significant piece of the drawing, but I've only had trouble with textures like this. There are some more recent, smaller examples, but the best one, the one that just sticks inside my mind, is my drawing from Monemvasia from a few weeks ago. Similarly, I had a large mountain in the background to contend with, and I failed. I did not like the result at all, and I came away with no insight. It taught me nothing. So when finding this reference and framing the shot and figuring out my composition on the paper and drawing everything that preceded the hill, it just sat patiently, waiting for me to attack it. And all the while, I knew that I didn't know how to. So, to my truly unbelievable delight, I feel like I found a way to do it, as you can see. As always, it's far from perfect, or in this case, even good, but it's a whole hell of a lot better than last time, so I will take it. I don't really know what to say about it, or how to break it down, let alone teach someone else to do it. But in essence, I tried really hard to focus on these medium-sized shapes. So not the overarching silhouette or every rock and crevice, and then pay attention to their shadows, which is probably important. And you can see them, casting off to the left. That's it. Obviously, I included some little bits of foliage to give it some realism, but on the whole, this was largely a shot in the dark, and I feel lucky that it turned out the way that it did. Truly lucky. That's probably the best word for it. I think it complements the bottom of the frame pretty well, and that stark difference in textures is probably what sells it the most. If I had some trees in here or a bunch of ground texture or something, I think this could have easily been lost. So anyway, here it is. If you try not to focus too much on the wonky windows on the right, or some of the other weird little things I managed to throw in here, I think you'll find that this one was worth the time and the effort it took to make it. This might be one of the more complete drawings that I've done on the channel, and I'm really happy I stuck it out. You might notice that a lot of my drawings feel, I guess, a little bit unfinished, like if I were to sell them at a craft fair or something, people would be confused, like why is the tree not filled in, or why are the edges all blurry? And that is largely on purpose. It's mostly to give myself a little bit of latitude to focus on one thing, to pour all of my attention into, the primary subjects. And if I miss some stuff on the edges, so be it. If my trees aren't, fully realized, that's okay. I can deal with it. But for this, I feel like it is a, finalized version of what I was going for. And I'd say it was worth it. Anyway, this will be the last video of the year, as I, and hopefully you, will be taking some time away from the internet and posting and all that nonsense over the holidays. I'll still be drawing, but I'm not really interested in splitting my time between this and everything else while I try to enjoy Christmas and New Year's. So I'll see you on January 5th. I appreciate you for taking the time to watch this one, and I hope you all have a wonderful time with the rest of 2025, and I'll see you in 2026. Thanks.